Hi, this is Randall here in Texas.
And I'm Matt, here in Michigan. Today, Randall and I are reviewing a movie that's out in select theaters and also streaming on Netflix. It is Red Notice. It stars Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot. It's directed by Rawson Marshall Thurber, who's also directed Dodgeball, as well as other movies starring Dwayne Johnson, including Central Intelligence and Skyscraper. But before we go any further, if you like this review, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also be sure to hit subscribe and ring that bell to get notifications on our latest videos.
Red Notice finds us as renowned international art thief Nolan Booth, portrayed by Ryan Reynolds, is forced to work with his own captor John Hartley, portrayed by Dwayne Johnson, to beat another thief who's only known as the Bishop, portrayed by Gal Gadot, to a piece of art that no one has seen in over 2,000 years. This movie had a purported budget of about $200 million. Whew, as Matt would say. But it's had pretty below average critical response, while audiences seem to absolutely love it.
For me, this I guess was a pretty enjoyable, I would say low-key popcorn flick for me. Nothing in this movie really stood out, but then again, nothing in this movie for me was really all that horrible. So, this is kind of like a middle line, hey, I want something, light to just kick back and enjoy a little bit. And yeah, I guess that nothing too surprising, but a bit enjoyable.
I found this movie to be very distracting for me, and to the point where I almost felt like what it should be is a CGI animated film, something like that. I didn't feel that it was really needed all of this live action that was going on. I even got some real Despicable Me 2 vibes out of it. And with a young daughter, I've watched Despicable Me a lot, so if I'm getting those vibes, there's probably a reason for it. So it was a little distracting from that perspective. I wanted a little bit more reason for it to be a live action film, and instead it came across as very cartoony. Part of the disappointment for me is in the plot and story elements. This idea of an odd couple who are facing off against an adversary is, in and of itself, pretty okay, but I didn't really like the execution of it. Like I said, I felt it was a little bit too cartoony, a little bit too over the top, especially with the comedy. I wanted them to more concentrate on the story instead of just making these characters caricatures of what you would expect.
For me, I kind of look at the story as, that typical heist and, like you were saying, Reno, kind of unlikely pairing, odd couple kind of thing in this one. I think that's really what this movie really focuses on. But a lot of it with the story, too, there's a little bit of hey, there's something here that's not at face value. And it's up to the audience to try to figure out, hey, what's this thing that doesn't quite seem right? Or, where are we going to get to in this film at the end? And for me, I'd have to say, well, as I was guessing through the film, I didn't get it correct until near the end. I was actually thinking that this movie was going to go in a different direction than one we end up doing. So for that, I think, it's okay. But then again, at the same time, too, it's not anything really big that really grips you. And that's why I go with my intro. It's kind of what? It's one of those light movies that just, popcorn flicks and not something that I'm really invested in.
I wouldn't spend the money on the popcorn.
Yeah. It's nice when you pay up front and get a bucket or whatever, and you just go and you get that bucket filled of popcorn. That's what I go for.
Well, I guess part of the story leans so heavily on the comedy aspects of this film that I found it really hard to take anything serious in it.
How'd you find me?
You stole William Strang's Lady with the Red Hat from the tape.
You can't prove that was me. I got that on Etsy.
Which was also, for me personally, a detriment. I don't mind comedy in action films and stuff like that. I've enjoyed the bulk of Marvel movies, for example. But in this one, like you said, it's kind of just, it doesn't do anything particularly fantastic, and it doesn't do anything particularly bad, but the story is so blah and basic. I had a hard time being hooked by it, even if the characters are themselves kind of interesting.
You know, speaking of characters, to me, like, nothing was really unexpected. Ryan Reynolds in this movie plays Ryan Reynolds, the typical humor that you'd expect from just about any Ryan Reynolds film.
Where'd you get that jacket? It's a statement piece. Somewhere there's a very nude cow whispering, worth it.
Dwayne Johnson is Dwayne Johnson in this film, which there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoyed Dwayne Johnson being Dwayne Johnson. And I think Gal Gadot does a really good impersonation of Carmen Sandiego in this film, mixed with maybe a little bit of like Belloc from Indiana Jones. I think the characters do play their roles pretty well. Nothing that they do in this film, I guess, really surprised me. It's not like we have like a standout performance, I don't think, from any of the three actors. I think they just play what you'd expect. So if you're going in, you know, knowing these actors real well, you're going to get what you expect to get from this film.
Well, any longtime viewer of our channel knows that for me, character-driven films are actually pretty important. And in this film, characters are what killed this film for me. Ryan Reynolds' character, like Matt said, is a joke. Every single line. There is like hardly a serious line from his character whatsoever in this. And that was extremely distracting. Now, it's one thing if his character's telling jokes, but there's always a quippy comeback. It doesn't matter who he's talking to. Every single line in this movie is almost always a joke.
See? Easy peasy.
It's outlandish even for a film, and I did not like it. I know that you go to a Ryan Reynolds film to get that, but usually there's some sort of balance on the other side, and this film is not balanced. It's just like, all right, we're just going to tell jokes all the time, every time, over the top. But really, those character aspects notwithstanding, the thing that just does me in storyline-wise and character-wise is that these characters don't earn anything for themselves. If you watch a movie like Raiders of the Lost Ark or Ocean's 11, those characters are struggling. They're finding things out. You're seeing it on screen as they find it out or as they plan it. In Red Notice, all of these characters are just beautiful, smart, already have everything planned out characters. They don't earn anything. I mean, even the main plot point near the end of the film is literally given to one of our main characters instead of him having to work for it. So, not very strong characters led me to just dislike it more because I couldn't really even lean on the story, which I said was already kind of disappointing. So, you know, you're just getting all these disappointing check marks in my book.
Yeah, one of the big things is that odd couple pairing that we talked about earlier. It's, you know, Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne Johnson's that odd couple pairing. And really, this movie, you want to see that relationship between the two of them build. Generally with these movies, it's like, hey, these are like opposites and, you know, they find common ground and come together. Where really, I guess we have like one moment where they try to find a bit of common ground and it's just like, hey, tell me your story. And in that telling of the story, I guess we're bringing these characters close together, give them a reason to like each other. I don't know. I don't know that it fully, you know, solidified at the end, but, you know, with, you know, I guess individual, like I said, if you're big on Ryan Reynolds' stick, you get that in this one. And if you like Dwayne Johnson being, you know, tough guy action, taking a lot of beating, he takes a lot of beating in this movie, then you're gonna get that stuff, but yeah, it's not anything that really gripped me in this movie.
He's dead several times over in this movie in real life. The bull, Matt. The bull was where I said, F it. Like, he's dead. But no, he gets up and shakes it off.
I actually thought of that too. I was thinking, like, you know, if any of this stuff happened to Ryan Reynolds in this movie, like, everyone would expect him to be dead. I guess it's because Dwayne Johnson is so big that they thought they could just get away with it in this film.
They could just get away with it. Well, I'm happy you talked about the odd pairing because that's pretty important for you know it's not really a buddy cop movie exactly, but kind of similar-ish genre. I'm not getting that like Murtaugh and Riggs from Lethal Weapon feel out of it, which is disappointing. if it was an action film, the action was kind of bland, and when you get to it, there's enough CGI and annoyances where you're like, nope, don't care, and no one's gonna die. There's no stakes. I'm not fearing for any of these characters. And if it's a comedy, it's just too much.
Yeah, I kind of went in with like the, comedy action and maybe a little bit of adventure in this film too. I think, like you said, with the comedy, I mean, it's all Ryan Reynolds. So, like, I go in. You got to really be into the Ryan Reynolds, every line's a joke thing to really get the comedy in this one. I don't really think there's a whole lot of situational comedy or that it's really played up that much in this film. The action, yeah, some fight scenes are okay, and we get like a chase scene at the end that, I expect to see in kind of like an Indiana Jones movie kind of thing, maybe one of the recent ones. But speaking of Indiana Jones, like, I think that's where a little bit how we get a kind of like the adventure stuff, like we're going to like a new place at the end, and we even got like the Nazis and stuff, like Indiana Jones, and heck, this movie doesn't even care. It directly references Indiana Jones. We get Ryan Reynolds humming the Indiana Jones theme in this movie kind of thing, like, yeah, wink, nod, nod. If you haven't already been thinking of Indiana Jones like this, just trying to seal it for you right here kind of thing. Generally, does it do any of them all that great? Nah, I don't think so. Like I said, this is one of those movies that where you're kind of like, hey, I have it on, and I'm just gonna chill from a rough day today.
This would probably just give me more of a rough day. I come home, I want to watch something good, man. All right, so what didn't I see coming is that there's a twist in this film near the end. Matt mentioned it earlier a little bit near the beginning, and I saw the twist coming. So I'm like, yeah, there's going to be something, because all modern movies need some sort of twist. But I will admit wholeheartedly to getting the twist wrong. What ends up happening at the end and where the characters end up going is something that I did not see coming. I thought it was going to be something else. So shame on me. But that was, I guess, at least surprising. It's nice to be surprised.
The thing I didn't see coming was what you mentioned at the very top, the $200 million budget. That was kind of a shocker for me after watching this film. I'm like, man, they must have paid out a lot of money to our three main actors in this movie to really bring that budget up. Put it in perspective, that is the same budget that we have for another Dwayne Johnson movie that recently came out, Jungle Cruise. Jungle Cruise has a ton of like CGI characters, almost like Pirates of the Caribbean style. And we get like action scenes and stuff on that, but I didn't think we really got stuff on the scale of like a Jungle Cruise. Heck, even Dune had like, what, $160 million budget? So I was really surprised by that. Maybe this was a movie that was supposed to come out like years ago and got pushed back, and maybe some of the promotional budget put it up there, but then again, I don't really think so, so I'm surprised.
In conclusion, if you are bored and you have Netflix already paid for, there's better options. I would recommend you go watch something else, in all honesty. If you're really bored and, you don't have Netflix, don't buy Netflix for this movie. Go watch Stranger Things or something else. Honestly, my viewing pleasure of this film was ruined early on when everything was a joke. Every single part, every single line, every character was a joke. Even the Interpol police officer becomes a joke. That was enough for me. I didn't need any more of that.
For me, I thought this was, an okay movie. Had, I guess, some enjoyable parts or whatever. Really, I think this is just like shut off and baby popcorn and shut off your head completely. But Randall and I want to know what you guys think about Red Notice. If you've seen it, let us know in the comments below. Also, be sure to check out some of our other reviews. We have other new movie reviews, flashback movie reviews, take a look at TV shows, and we have deeper dive discussions.
We also have our Facebook page. Make sure to go check us out over there if you haven't. We post some things from our other fandoms, as well as the day before posting what's going to be next up on YouTube. If you do not have a Facebook, no problem. You can put us on your schedules. We release new videos every Monday and Thursday. For now, I'm Randall here in Texas. See everyone next time.
And I'm Matt here in Michigan. Have a good day, everyone. Next time on No Market Media. Please consider checking out some of our other videos.